Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Juliet. In this video I will be sharing with you how I made this lovely baby girl dress with cap sleeves and perfect inseam finishing. If you're interested, please keep on watching. If this is your first time on my channel, thank you so much for stopping by and please consider subscribing. So here I have two pieces of fabrics placed on top of each other, right sides together, and I used the baby's chest measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches of allowance and another 1.5 for zip, and then her shoulder to half length plus 1 inch of allowance. So here I'm marking 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance all the way. Then here is another piece of fabric folded into two, using the baby's chest measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches of allowance, and I placed that folded edge on the zip line that I just drew. So next up I'm marking the shoulder measurement divided by 2. The shoulder measurement divided by 2, and then I'm marking the armhole. I used 5 inches for her armhole here. So next up I'm marking the neck width, which is 3 inches, and then the neck depth, which is also 3 inches for the front. So the front neck is 3 inches by 3 inches. And then on this shoulder line, I came down by ½ inch and I connected to that neckline like so, forming the shoulder slope. So next I'm marking the back neck, which I used 1 inch. So you notice that the back neck, I marked it across to the front, and then I curved it across to the back rather, and then I also went ahead to curve the armhole. So next I'll be cutting out, starting with the shoulder slant, then the armhole. So this fabric is kind of stretchy and it's a lot more tricky to mark on and cut. So next I'll cut the back neckline first. Then I'll take out the back pieces and then curve the front neckline and cut it out. And this is what we have of the front and the back. So I'm going to cut lining pieces for each of them. So next up, I'm going to measure this armhole to the point where I want the cap sleeve to stop. I think I used about 4. Next, I folded my fabric into 2, and then I'm going to mark 4.5 inches. I added extra ½ inch to that. So I'm marking 4.5 inches all across, like so. Then I'm going to make a curve to the bottom like so. Something like this, and then I'll measure to that 4 inches point where I want the cap sleeve to stop, and then I'll connect to this side. So you can leave it all the way down, both this side and then this side the same way, and then pleat some of it to form the cup sleeve, but I want it flat, so I made sure it's exactly where I wanted it to stop and I curved it to meet this other side. So I'm going to notch the middle like so, and then this is where it's going to sit when we sew. So for the round, you make sure it's about it's up to your round, the kid's round sleeve measurement minus 1 or 2. So next up, I'm placing it on the fabric to cut a second one. So you can make it straight and not slant it like I did, which will still be fine. So I'm gonna head to cut lining pieces for all of them, both the sleeves and the front and back bodies. So next up, I'm going to join them together on the shoulder. So I'm going to place them right sides together and pin the shoulders together like so. I'll go and sew them down using 1/2 inch. Only the shoulder. Then I'll do the same for the lining. So if you're adding that to yours, this will be the time to do that. I'm not adding that to mine. I don't think that is necessary. So for the cap sleeve, I'm going to place the lining on the right side and then pin the down part and sew it down using 1/2 inch. So after sewing the shoulders, I've ironed them flat, both the main fabric and lining, and then I did the same for the cap sleeve. So I'm going to match the midpoint to the shoulder point like so and pin it round the armhole. So from that midpoint, I'll pin down to this side and then pin to the other side as well. Then I'll repeat the same for the second sleeve. So you can see it's taking shape already. So next I'm going to place the lining on it, right sides together, and then I pushed the cap sleeve inside and I'm pinning the lining on top like so. So we're going to take it to the machine now and sew round the armhole and then push it in on the neckline side and then sew it round as well, making sure you're not sewing on the cap sleeve. You push it in, as you can see. Then you leave about 1.5 inches on the zip side. You will not sew past that point. So after sewing, this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead and notch all around the armhole and then the neckline. You can see I didn't sew all the way to the end on the back. So after notching, I'm going to use a safety pin and then put it on this corner of the blouse on the back, then pass it through the shoulder and pull it out like so. This for one side. You repeat the same on this side. Put the safety pin like so, pass it through the shoulder and then pull it out on this other end. And there you have it. I'm going to iron it now so that everything will be flat and clean. So next up, this is for the belt. I have 29 inches long and 5 inches wide. I'm going to fold it into two right sides together, sew it like this and close one end. I'll do the same for the second one. So after sewing, I turned out and I ironed it, and this is what it's looking. Next, I'm going to mark the baby's measurement. I'm going to place the quarter of the measurement on the center line and then mark it. Then mark half of it on this other end. So let's say the waist is 24. So quarter of that is 6. I'm going to put 6 on the center front and mark on this end. Then mark 12, which is half of that on this other end, and then repeat the same for the chest side. I'm going to do the same thing for on the lining pieces on the front part of the upper piece. Next, I'm going to mark ½ inch up from the down part like so, all across the front piece. I'm going to place this lace trim on that ½ inch I marked like so. Making sure it's sitting exactly on that line. Next up, I take the belt and I place it on that ½ inch point as well. I'm going to pin it in place. Please note that I'm pinning only on the main fabric and not the lining. So I'm going to pin it like so. And then I'll do the same on this other side as well. Place it on that 1/2 inch point and then pin it down. So next I'm going to match main fabric to main fabric, front and back, and then lining to lining, both front and back. I'll pin them together, making sure they match on the armhole point. So I'll go and sew that down and do the same on this other end as well. Main fabric to main fabric and then lining to lining, making sure the armhole point is matching. So after sewing, this is what we have. I've ironed it flat. So next we'll cut the lower part, which we are going to pleat onto this upper part. So here I have the piece of fabric. It's a little over 2 yards. I folded it into 4. So the length, I subtracted the upper part of the dress from the full length of the dress, and then I added 1 inch of allowance, and this is what we have here. And then I cut the lining piece that is 2 inches shorter than this one. So next we're going to pin it on the main fabric alone, not on the lining. I'm folding it into 2 now. I'm going to notch this corner, then fold again into 2 and notch this other end as well. So next I'm going to locate the center notch and pin it on the center front, and then the second notch on the side seam, on one side seam. Then I'll pin the edge to the edge. So I'm going to pin past the zipper allowance line, let's say 1/2 inch past that, and then I'll pleat the rest in. I'm pinning this other notch on this other side seam as well, and then this edge on this edge. I'm going to pin it into a little past the zipper allowance line, and then pleat the rest of the fabric onto the upper bodice like that. Then I will do the same thing for the lining. Pleat the lining to the lining piece after notching the same way I did the main fabric. Place the notch point on the center and the two side seams, and then pin the edges, then you pleat the excess to fit into that space, making sure you don't pleat on the zip allowance line. So I've pleated and I've sewn down, and this is what we have. It's looking nice. And this is the inside, this is the lining piece. See how clean it's looking. You can go ahead and weave all the raw edges if you want to. So here I'm going to pin the main fabric into two like so. Then from this half length I measure down about 5 inches. Then I mark the zip allowance all the way down. I'm going to take it to the machine and sew from that point down like so. Only the main fabric. Then I do the same thing for the lining piece. I fold into two and then mark 5 inches down from the half length. From there I marked the zip allowance, which is 1.5, all the way down, and I'll go and sew it. So after sewing that, I'm going to fix the zip on the main fabric like so, and I'll be back. So here is it. I have sewn and fixed the zip on the main fabric. Next up, I'm going to put the main fabric into the lining, right sides together, as you can see. Then I'm going to finish the upper part, the neck part, sew across the remaining parts of the neck like that. Yeah. Then I will sew down, following the stitch I made with the zip all the way to the down part, like so. The initial stitch we used to sew the zip will serve as a guide. Like that. So I'll do the same thing on this side. Place them like so. Then finish the neckline like that. Then following that stitch we made for the zip, I'm going to sew it all the way down. So after sewing that, this is what it's looking like, as you can see. Then turning to the right side, this is what we have on the right side. And then on the inside, this is what we have. It's looking clean, right? Clean and perfect. So you can still go ahead to weave the raw edges if you want. That will make it even cleaner, but I didn't do that here, which is still perfect. So that is it for this video, you guys. If you learned anything, please give it a like, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.